change. Okay, there we go. All right. And let me share my screen with you. Perfect. All right, sorry for the delay. All right, we'll get started. And today, as I said, we were talking about working with builders, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And okay, sorry. There we go. So who am I? I'm a full-time award-winning real estate investor. I've been doing that since 2006. I've been on all sorts of stages and appeared in a few different magazines. I've been educating investors and landlords since 2010, and I've worked with several builders on spec homes for rent-to-own clients, as well as had our own purpose-built, legally suited houses built. So I have a fair bit of experience with working with builders, but this session today is by no means exhaustive in the issues that you can have, but the big deal is knowing what to ask, knowing how to protect yourself to make sure you're having a good experience working with your builder. And as I say, I've been there and done that. So a couple little ground rules here. Type your questions in the chat box, which has disappeared off my screen, or just go live on your mic on Zoom and make sure you mute your mic when you're done. And be sure to like and follow my Facebook page for more useful info and videos like this. And also click the sign up button at the top to join our mailing list. So first, the bad about working with builders. You get no return on investment on your deposit money. So you're putting up usually at least 5%. With some builders, it's 10% that you're putting up front. So that could easily be $50,000 that you're putting up front that's going to sit there and do absolutely nothing for you for the year or potentially more that it's going to take to get this property built. And it always takes longer than you plan or you hope. For ours, it was supposed to be less than a year. It ended up being a year and a half. So much fun. There are a whole lot of extras that are not included in your standard build that you either have to have included and add on to the contract, or you're paying for them out of your pocket and it's not included in the mortgage. Those are landscaping, because all they're going to do for you is the rough grade. That's all that's in the standard package with a lot of builders. So you need to watch out for these things. Fences are also not included. Blinds, curtains obviously wouldn't be, but blinds aren't included at all. Oh, and watch it with blinds, because it's way better, in my opinion, to just have the bathroom windows frosted instead of having blinds in the bathroom, because you're never going to open the blinds in the bathroom, right? Get them frosted and then you have one less thing to worry about. Appliances and decks are also not included. So all you basically have is the back door opening to nothing, or they have a little temporary step. Having a full deck is a complete add-on. And appliances, the standard for a lot of builders is that they don't come with appliances, and you have to add an appliance package. And for anything that you do want included, such as fences or landscaping or even blinds, with a lot of builders, you only have the choice to work with their preferred contractors. So these are people that they already have a credit arrangement set up with, so they don't have to, pay cash at the time they get built. So that's really the only reason they're the preferred contractors. And sometimes it's not necessarily who you would want to work with. With large builders, there are a few specific issues to watch out for. They are less flexible, and my partner would argue they are completely inflexible, but we haven't worked with every large builder, so we can't say that. But yes, definitely less flexible. They have their systems that have worked for them for quite some time, and they want to stick with those systems. The standard landlord package that they suggest that you remove when they find out you're buying this or building this as an investment property, that has a lot of things potentially that you want to keep. For instance, with the builder we worked with, the standard in the landlord package is to remove triple pane windows and only use double pane windows. Well, when you're building a house, it's not that much extra for the triple pane windows. So why would we want to cancel those? So if you are being suggested to cancel the landlord package and downgrade, have a close look at exactly what they're pulling out of there, because you can choose to keep any or all of those items. Large builders use contractors for the most part for the build rather than employees. The employees are their salespeople, their customer service people, their warranty inspection people, but all the people actually doing the build are often contractors. And as you know, with contractors, they're in and out. They don't really have a vested interest in doing a good job for this company. So contractors there are some great contractors, of course, but there are some who are just, give me my money and I'm out of here. I'm sure we've all worked with somebody like that. They don't have a vested interest in the success of the builder's company, so they have less incentive to do a really good job, as opposed to employees who work for that builder full-time permanently. Large builders, you often have an attitude of that's not my department. So sometimes it's really challenging to get issues resolved, to even find out that you're talking to the right person. And one bad review for them is just like a penny in the fountain. It makes no difference, because if you have a company that has 3,000 reviews and you get one bad one, that rating goes down from a 4.6 to a 4.6. It has zero effect unless somebody is specifically looking for the bad reviews. And celebrity endorsements are so much fun. One builder that we worked with paid the money to have a celebrity endorsement, such as Mike Hones with his Homes Approved Homes program. Something like that lends you to believe that it's of a higher standard, but that is not necessarily so. Mike Holmes isn't coming down to inspect the build. He has absolutely nothing to do with the actual quality. It's just his name being stamped on it. And I talked to the Mike Holmes Approved Homes organization, and that's basically what they said. With small builders, there can be some issues as well. Are they viable? Are they big enough and they have enough liquidity that they can complete all the projects they've committed to? And what if a better opportunity arises for them? Are they going to have to put your job on hold to capitalize on this other opportunity? Are they spreading themselves too thin? Do they have the staff to complete the job, or are they also going to need to hire subcontractors? And the length of the build. If you don't have many people working on a job, that build time could actually be longer. And the security of the deposits that you've put down for these properties to be built, that could be in question with a really small builder. I don't know what builder this was. I'm sure they're out of business by now, but I did hear about one company that took the deposits from some customers in order to finish the jobs they had already started, and then they were gone. If you're having properties built in new neighborhoods, you can't really see the end result until years later. So how much street parking is there going to be? That's a big one, especially now with these zero clearance lots, which you see in this picture here. There is not enough room to park a car in between those two driveways. So on this particular street in the picture, there would be zero street parking. And a lot of these properties are probably going to have legal suites in them, which is the big thing now to densify a neighborhood and to provide a lot of quality, lower cost housing. So secondary suites means more cars, but if you have less parking, it's a challenge. And how long will construction last in the area? For the ones that we had built, we were some of the first houses on the street. That ours were finished in 2016. There is still construction on that street, and of course all the streets around us. So that's what, 6 years later. And fencing costs and disagreements. If you are the first house up on the street, or maybe you're the fifth house but you have no neighbors, If you want that place fenced, which you probably do, if it's a rental property, tenants like fences for their dogs and their kids. So now instead of having the good neighbor shared fence where you both decide on what fence it is and you share in the cost, you're putting up the fence at your cost 100%. And when the neighbor's house gets built, if they don't like the fence, they might just build their own right beside. This has happened multiple times for us. So we picked chain link because it's, maintenance free. And the neighbors wanted a wood fence. So they put their wood fence right up beside ours. Funny thing, in one case, the neighbor requested that we remove our brand new chain link fence and that we then share the cost on putting up the wood fence that they wanted. That didn't happen. So we have two fences. Temporary markers are a big deal if you are in a new neighborhood. Oh, I just learned this, that when you have a new subdivision, the developer of the subdivision sets the markers, but the final markers may not be set until a year or more later. So our properties were built based on basically temporary markers. It was coordinates that were supplied to them by the subdivision developer, but they weren't the final coordinates. Turns out they were slightly off. And so when we bought the houses, we had RPRs with compliance, everything was fine. That's before the final markers were set. So the final markers were then set. That changed everything. We just updated our RPRs and now we don't have compliance. So we had to go through a whole process to get an encroachment agreement and have that filed on the neighbor's title. What a mess. Market fluctuations are a big deal, especially if that build takes longer than expected. So for ours, for example, the oil slump hit right in the middle of our build. So single family homes had dropped in value by 10% in our area. That meant that our appraisal was, oh goodness, I think it came back $37,000 low on 3 properties. Well, I didn't have an extra 100 grand in my pocket, but we were very lucky because we had those houses as legally suited, which hold their value a lot better than single family. So we were able to justify and basically write a report and explaining why our properties actually were still worth the money we were contracted to pay for them. And it worked out fine. But if they were single family homes, we would have had to come up with that extra $37,000 per property out of our pocket. And now the ugly of working with builders. Some builders cut corners. It was in writing in our paperwork for our properties that they use the highest quality materials. That was not the case. For example, the underlay on the carpet was supposed to be high quality foam underlay, but it had wood chips as filler. So our carpet was lumpy in places, and how they fixed it was the carpet guy came around with a hammer and beat on it until the wood chips crunched down and disintegrated a little bit. So that was the highest quality materials. That's just one example. You can't build houses based on conversations. That is what the owner of the company told us when we were trying to explain to him that this is what we were told. This is all of the things that were supposed to happen with our build. But of course, since things were part of the standard package, we were told by the salesperson, we didn't make a special note of a few things. We thought they were part of the standard package. So why would we note them down separately? And it turns out that wasn't quite the case. And we ended up having to pay for a few extra things out of pocket because they had to be done. So that soundproofing between the suites is specifically what I'm talking about. When you have a bigger builder, often they like to work with cookie cutter homes. They don't want to have anything different. They don't want to be customizing. They just want, here's the plan we have, here's the this is what we've built 18 times to this month, and that's what they want to do. So you'll have a choice of siding and finishing on the outside. The inside will be the same layout, and then you have limited choices of what you're able to put in for finishings. They are definitely less flexible and less responsive to issues, in my experience. Some builders will deny responsibility for problems, and especially in rental properties, because, oh my goodness, of course, it's the tenants. For example, we had the interior doors of some of these properties were of the new ones were, oh, they're all new. We're working with builders. Of the ones that we had built, the doors were super thin. These are the thinnest material doors I have ever seen in my life. And if you closed it even slightly hard, they would crack. But of course, so we had so many cracked doors around the latches, but it's always the fault of the tenants. Really, we have that many tenants with rage issues? I don't think so. Oh, and also another issue we had was water, what did they call it? Surface water management. That was also an issue that was our fault. Of course, these are zero clearance lots. There is no place for water to be managed, but again, our fault. And when you have a large builder, they can kind of buy a good reputation. Our experience specifically, I'll get on later when we're talking about the specifics of the things we've had gone wrong. But yeah, it is amazing how many good reviews there are and how few bad reviews show up. And the Better Business Bureau, we'll get into that later. And they can afford huge legal fees. So they really don't care, some of these large builders, if you have issues with them and you're threatening to sue. They've got bigger pockets than you do. Those celebrity endorsements that lead you to think this is going to be a better quality house than it is. And well, let's get into the Better Business Bureau a little bit now, because we had an 18-month mediation through the Better Business Bureau, and somehow it never even showed up as having a complaint. Their record is absolutely spotless. They maintain their A+ rating with 0 complaints on file ever. Oh, and the funny thing is too, this particular builder changed their name and they got to maintain all their reviews went away, but they got to maintain their A+ rating, and it still says they've been in business 13 years. Permits for secondary suites. That was a bit of a scary issue for us, because we were contracting to have legally houses built, but at the sales meeting, they said, yes, we'll apply for the permits. Okay, let me.
Like the crapshoot, like a gambling thing.
We just need to mute somebody's mic here.
Yeah.
When they got bad reviews, and then so they can delete all the reviews, but keep their 16 years.
Mute your mics, please. My screen isn't showing that, and I'd really like. There we go.
AB, Better Business.
There we go. Okay, sorry about that. And while I'm paused here, let me pull the chat screen back up. Excellent. Okay, sorry for the delay. So permits for secondary suites. That was a bit scary for us, because in the sales meeting, of course, we're specifically having built legally suited houses. And the salesperson says, well, it's always possible we won't get the permits. Okay, well, I don't want to sign the contract to have the houses built until we know we're getting the permits, because these won't work for us as single family. It has to be legally suited. Well, we won't apply for the permits until you sign the contracts. And looking back, I would never do that again, because that I did sign the contracts. We did get the permits. Everything was fine, but that was just way too much of a risk, and I would never do that again. And on the other hand, with somebody else of even worse situation, I know of somebody else, and it happened to be the same builder that this person was working with. And she had said to the builder, we don't want to have the secondary suite put in right now, but we know that we're doing one. So we want a legal secondary suite. And so while you're doing all the wiring and everything, can you just make sure we're wired for the 220 for the stove? And so they did that. And of course, they weren't applying for a permit for her. But one thing that they didn't mention to her, and it's not really their job to mention or to do her research, but still, they would have known this. And they're building the house, and she's asking them to do a few things that need to be done for the future secondary suite. They didn't mention to her that she needs a second furnace and second ducting. So she was asking them to prepare the suite to be a legal secondary suite, and they never thought to mention the second furnace as a requirement. So now she has a finished suite, but she can never register it with the city. Finally, some good news. You get brand new shiny. Everybody likes brand new shiny. They do attract quality tenants. There are a lot of people who are really excited to live in a brand new home where nobody has pooped in that toilet yet. I've heard that, by the way. They are easy to rent, even for the first few years after they're being brand new, even after a few tenants have been in them. It's still quite easy to rent newer homes. You have all new appliances, and if they're good quality appliances, then that should mean that you should not have to deal with appliance failure for, let's say, at least 5 years. I called last year the year of the appliance because I can't even count how many appliances I replaced at our not new homes. You get the new home warranty, which is a blessing and a curse. It would be nice if we didn't need it, but it's great that it's there. And we have used it for a couple of times, specifically with one builder for a spec home that we bought. There were several issues, and the builder, and this was a smaller builder, not a large builder, he was very unresponsive and did not seem to want to fix anything. So we got the new home warranty involved. And what they did, this was quite a few years ago, but what they did at that time, because we said, well, what's the process? You know, do you just go in and fix it? And they said, well, first we kind of encourage the builder to fix it. And if he doesn't fix it, if he refuses within a reasonable time, then we send in contractors to fix it. And then we try to get the money from him. So it was great. And in some cases, it was the builder that did the fix. I do believe there was one thing that the, excuse me, that the new home warranty actually brought somebody in to fix, but this was quite a few years ago. I can't remember the exact details, but it was great to work with them. Smallish to medium-sized builders usually have, well, they do have more riding on each client. Every client matters more because they're working with less people. So that one bad review carries more weight. So they tend to be more responsive and more flexible to try to accommodate you. And in fact, with one small builder that we worked with, there was not a single issue at the 1-year warranty, not even a nail pop. It was mind-blowing. The quality of this build was basically perfect. And of course, you can have things built to your specifications, but only if you specify. So for example, if you, let me go forward here, you can specify that you want maintenance-free everything. So you can have vinyl plank flooring, vinyl or chain link fencing, no carpet. So there's all sorts of ways that you can make your house more maintenance-free, but only if you specify that and request it. You can have a secondary suite built by the builder, which is fantastic because it costs way less to have a secondary suite put in, or even a basement finished, but especially secondary suite put in when you're having the house built, as opposed to adding it later. I think the package, oh, I should have looked it up. It was ridiculously cheap, something like $15,000 to have the secondary suite added. and it would have been more like 50 to have it added after the fact. And plus, then it's on your original mortgage too. Soundproofing between the suites, or even if it's single family, things like soundproofing, insulation around bathrooms, that is a fantastic thing. And that's something that you need to ask about, because especially soundproofing between the floors, whether it's just for a movie room downstairs, home theater, or a secondary suite, these are things that you need to make sure are decided and specified in writing. The type of insulation, whether you want fiberglass pink or blown in cellulose insulation, pick the blown in cellulose. And basically, when you're working with a builder, you can ask for whatever you want. And as long as you're willing to pay for it, of course, you should be able to get it. Now, does anybody have any questions before we get into the laundry list of issues that I've experienced with builders? And I don't have Facebook up in front of me, so let me. Let me see if I can find it on here. That's being slow. Okay. Can I recommend a builder? I believe the builder that we worked with where there was 0 issues was Two Bros building. I'd have to look it up. That's really the only builder that I would recommend. Every other builder that I've worked with, a couple of the builders that were good, but I don't recall their names off the top of my head. I could look them up in the files and get back to you, because yeah, we've worked with a couple of builders where there were hardly any issues. And the one that I wouldn't recommend, I cannot tell you because we have a non-disclosure agreement. Is it a bad time to build now? I don't think so. But it depends where you are, because remember the market fluctuations. If you think that the bubble is ready to burst where you are, or if there's any indication that the economy is slowing down, then I wouldn't want to build, because it's going to take at least 6 months, but it could be a year and a half or even more before that house is built. So if the market might start declining, then you could have the problem of the appraisal not working out. I do remember, I think it was last summer, where in my area in Edmonton, the prices and values, everything was kind of just wishy-washy, and it was going up a little, down a little, and it was, so consumer confidence was quite low. And there was one builder in particular that would guarantee your price, that they would actually, this is what they said on their ad anyway, that they would guarantee that your appraisal would work out at the end, or they would make an adjustment to make it work. So that is something that is an aspect of flexibility that would come in really handy if there is uncertainty in the market. Okay, and expected building cost per square foot in Edmonton right now, I don't know. All right, moving on to the laundry list of issues. Now, first, these are the spec homes, or so that could be an infill or a new neighborhood, but the spec home is a house where the builder is building it without somebody already lined up to buy it, and then they just hope somebody buys it. So ceiling drywall screwed too close to the wall, that causes issues because all houses shift, they all flex. And if your ceiling drywall is screwed too close to the wall, then when the house flex, it rips the drywall tape right off, and it leaves a nasty crack in the paint, is what it looks like. So that is definitely something you don't want. We had that builder that we worked with through the new home warranty. There was a subfloor issue under the marble tile. And here's a funny thing. And I don't have this in any of the slides, but even with a brand new home, you should consider getting a home inspection, because that subfloor issue under the marble tile, we discovered while we were at the home inspection, we had all had our look around, but our inspectors were still working, and we're sitting on the steps and looking, and oh, it looks like a crack in the floor. And sure enough, it was. Now, that would have to be fixed under the 1-year warranty, but it was better to catch it during the pre-purchase inspection so that it would be fixed before possession. So that was, we wrote that in as a term on the contract, that must be fixed before possession. And a couple other issues that we discovered with brand new homes through a home inspection. So I do recommend them even for brand new homes. One place we were at had more nail pops than I could count. At the 1-year warranty, basically, it was like the whole house needed to be repainted. It was terrible. We had poor rough grade at several places, and not just poor rough grade, but not tamped properly. So if the ground around the property, especially under the driveways, isn't tamped properly, isn't packed, then you're going to have, one second. Then you're going to have issues with bigger issues with settling. So, and especially if you're putting any kind of rock as landscaping, if the ground isn't tamped properly, that rock is really going to settle. And what this, one place that this is really important is if you're doing those zero clearance lots where there's very little room in between the properties, grass won't grow. So often people put rock in between the two properties. If it's not tamped properly, that rock is going to sink a lot, and you're going to have water pooling in between the properties. Oh, and yes, with one builder, I don't know how this happened, but there was no rough grade certificate, even though that is part of the standard building package agreement that they do the rough grade and get their certificate. Well, they did the rough grade, but they never did apply for the certificate. So that was a little back and forth later. This is actually one of our neighboring properties, and this is an infill property, and the builder built the house too high. So this is landscaping fabric. This here, though, that's the waterproofing membrane. That's supposed to be underground. They built this house really high because this area has a high water table, and they didn't want the basement to flood, so they just built it up higher. It's a monster next door to us. And worst of all, they did the landscaping beside at about a 90-degree angle because they're trying to cover up what should be underground. So the slope to our house is huge. We had to have professional landscapers come in and do something fancy to our drainage, and it's all fine. But yeah, interesting times. Another issue that was caught by a home inspector, brand new home, was a gas leak in the furnace. And then at the same home, the fresh air intake to the furnace was kinked and basically completely useless. So that's fun. You got a gas leak in the furnace and no fresh air coming to it. Now with custom homes, meaning the homes that we had built, that, you know, we figured out the contract, we put in the finishings, and we had these built. Soundproofing between the suite was a huge issue. That's the one of the things that we were told was supposed to be part of the standard package. And I mean, I remember this conversation because I specifically said there's no way that I would have a basement suite without proper soundproofing. So we need to discuss the soundproofing and make sure it's there. Oh yes, it's part of the standard package. Well, it wasn't. And then we had to pay this ridiculous price for it to be added. That wasn't even the issue. The issue was they did it wrong. I had to explain to them how they did it wrong. And so then they finally fixed it after I took photocopies of one of our how-to books. Actually, I have one right under my computer to jack it up. But I took photocopies from our how-to book and sent them copies or scans of this, and, you know, kind of explained it line by line. It was ridiculous. So they finally switched it to the way it should be done, but for some reason it still doesn't really work very well. So I don't know what to say there. And their preferred contractors, They were expensive. It was way more costly to have those blinds put in by their contractor than to put in by my friend's blind company, even at full retail before the discount. But in order to have it put on the mortgage, we had to use their contractors. And the blinds were put in just fine. It was the landscaping contractor that was subpar. It was terrible. And it was a long, tedious, arduous battle to get most things fixed. In these properties, the heat on the second floor is stifling. And I'm not sure why. Perhaps the insulation we were supposed to get wasn't what we actually got in the attic. I'm not sure. We had a lot of settling. There's a lot of settling cracks in the building, and in places I've never seen settling cracks before. So it was a bit disconcerting. But more importantly, the driveways are all collapsing. And when we talked to the builder about that, and I recorded this conversation for posterity, he said, well, all driveways are hollow underneath. You go to any one of these properties on the street, they'll all be hollow underneath. Okay, then. That's a new one for me.
Progress.
And as I mentioned before, they use contractors rather than employees. And for example, the shoddy workmanship, we were seeing pictures of, because in between site visits, they also posted pictures of the work. And on one of them, we're looking at the pictures and we're going, wow, that framing just doesn't even line up properly on this one property. So then we went and had a look in person, and sure enough, the framing was absolutely terrible. So while it was in the building stage, we got them to take that apart, and it was the attic, got them to take that apart and redo it. I think they painted walls when they still had the construction dust on them, just covered in, dust from sanding, the mudding. And the paint would chip off. If I'm serious, it seemed like if you sneezed, the paint would chip off. Almost all of our appliances in these builds were discontinued. And often the reason appliances are discontinued is because they're duds. So a lot of them failed. And when we would go to get them repaired, they don't even make parts for these anymore. That's how bad they were. So we had to replace a lot of practically new appliances. And they installed the wrong lights in several places. And it was another fight to get them to even believe they did this. The faucet brand that they used, and I can't remember what the brand is, but it's not a cheap brand, but we found out there is 0 warranty on this particular brand when it's a rental property. The landscaping holdback mysteriously disappeared because we wouldn't authorize the landscaping holdback to be released to the contractor until the work was fixed, because there were things that they had put on their contract that they didn't do. And then other things that they didn't do to a professional standard. So we wouldn't release the money. This went on for years. And in the end, it had disappeared. Oh, no, we don't have it. Well, if you don't have it and the contractor doesn't have it and I don't have it, then where's the money? It all got sorted out and we finally got it released to us. That was part of the court issue, mediation, yeah. And when you buy a brand new colored front door from a proper door company, usually that paint will be baked on enamel. That's not what they did here. And that's one of those questions that I never thought to ask, because of course I'm thinking it's baked on enamel. No, they painted it with a roller. It took 15 coats, because I had chosen red, of course, took 15 coats and it still didn't cover properly and it chipped off. Oh, that roughed in basement suite I already told you about, that was another custom job for that other person. And at the 1-year warranty inspection, we had several issues, of course, and they assured me we'll take care of everything. And this guy, he was a new person that I was dealing with, and he said, oh yeah, I've been friends with the owner forever, and rest assured, we will take care of everything. Well, they did not supply us with the 1-year warranty report until after the warranty period expired. And on that report, it said all issues were resolved. Because the warranty period had expired, we could not make a warranty claim. So as I mentioned before, that Better Business, and this is from their current website, or from the Better Business Bureau, from their profile, that they've been in business for 13 years. They have an A+ rating, and this business has 0 complaints. I find that to be impossible, since I know for a fact that I made one. And they changed their company name. When they did that, all the bad Google reviews disappeared, but yet they get to maintain their A+ rating on Better Business Bureau. Mind blowing. So my suggestions: work with a medium-sized builder. That's where I would be going. Be careful with realtor recommendations. How we got working with this builder for these 3 properties in the first place was because of a realtor recommendation. But all it was money changing hands. They were getting their full commission without having to do any actual work, because the contracts and everything weren't even signed with that realtor. They were signed with the salesperson at the builder. So the realtor was getting full commission, doing 0 work other than saying, hey, work with these guys, they're wonderful. And you can work with your usual realtor. I never even thought about this at the time, but yeah, sure, I've heard about this builder that I should work with. But you can bring in your own realtor to sit there and negotiate these contracts, to be, and the realtor, trust me, your realtor will have an idea of who's good to work with and who's maybe not as good to work with, because they deal with these houses, maybe not when they're new, but they know who the builders are that you're buying as used inventory. And of course, get every word in writing, even if they say it's part of the standard package. And personally, if I was doing this again, I would get an audio recording of the sales meeting and of all the contract signing. And I would tell them, of course, all right, just to make sure that we have all the bases covered and everybody's clear on what's said and what's not, I'm recording this meeting. And after the contracts are signed, and when you're dealing with them for warranty issues or whatever, communicate through email, because then you're going to have a paper trail. And file warranty claims, even if they swear they'll fix it. Yes, it does cost money to file a warranty claim, but it costs more if nothing gets done and nothing gets fixed, and then it's all your responsibility. And visit the build site many, many times. It's great that they post the pictures that you can look at, but you need to work with a builder that you're going to be allowed to visit the site as often as you like. Well, within reason, of course. And do your due diligence on the builder. Definitely don't just trust a realtor's recommendation, especially if they're not doing any work and they're getting full commission. So some due diligence. So you do want to look at Google reviews, and Better Business Bureau, not so much their rating, but there's reviews on the Better Business Bureau and other review sites as well. There are some sites that are specific for housing and contractors and that. But this here, for example, is a review of one of the companies that we've dealt with. This is on the Better Business Bureau site. And terrible attitude, do not deal with this company. Social media searches for frustrated homeowners. Call the new home warranty program to check the number of complaints. That one builder that we worked with years ago, it turns out that his new home warranty status was revoked. He had so many complaints and so many issues, and he was so unresponsive to those issues that the new home warranty program actually revoked his ability to offer the new home warranty. Network with other investors and do a judgment search. You'll find my builder, but of course you have to search by the name. So when you're considering working with a builder, go down to the courthouse, do a judgment search, see what kind of claims may be against this person. All right, any questions? Okay, so be sure to like and follow the Facebook page and click the sign up button on the Facebook banner to be the first to know about these webinars and all of that. We've got a lot of exciting stuff coming up. And also leave a comment. And if you have any questions, you can email me or leave a comment on Facebook. And I haven't decided which good, bad, or ugly I'm doing next. There are a lot of choices. Working with condos is one of them. I can't think of the other ones right now. And we have a summit coming up in September. There's going to be more details on that in email for sure. So definitely sign up on the sign up button at the top of the Facebook if you're not already on my email list. And you can be sure to get more information on our summit with experts from across the country talking about all sorts of strategies to improve your success in real estate. All right. What is my email? I will post it in the comments I'll post it in the chat and I'll post it in the comments on Facebook as well. And oh, thank you. Thank you so much. It was awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope this has been enlightening. And I know that when we worked with builders, we didn't have a clue what to look for. And in all the years that we've been doing this, now I have a lot more clarity and know what to ask to protect myself. And I hope that now you feel the same way. All right. And yeah, I will see you soon for the next good, bad, and ugly. And everybody have a wonderful day. Happy investing. I always have trouble getting the menu to pop down. There we go. All right, thanks everybody. Oh God, it didn't do it. Me and Zoom, we're such great friends. Here we go, finally, end.